The kitchen smelled like rosemary and roasted garlic. And Andreen Catyen stood barefoot on the cold tile, stirring a sauce she had been tending for 2 hours. The table was set with the white linen cloth she saved for special occasions, the one with the tiny embroidered flowers along the edge that her mother had given her as a wedding gift. She had placed candles in the center, lit them twice, because the first attempt caught the edge of a napkin and startled her, and she had laughed alone in the empty dining room. Pressing her hand to her chest, she was wearing the burgundy wrap dress she bought 3 months ago and never had a reason to wear. It clung to her in all the right places, and when she had stood in front of the bathroom mirror earlier that evening, she had thought, for the first time in a long while, she looked beautiful. Really beautiful. The kind of beautiful that asks to be noticed. Preston would be home by 8. He had texted her that much, a single line without punctuation, the way he always communicated now. She had stopped expecting more. What she had not stopped expecting was one evening, just one, where he came through the door and saw her. Not the house, not the dinner, not the quiet efficiency with which she managed their life. Her Andreen. The woman he had stood across from in a garden 4 years ago and promised to choose every single day. She heard the garage door at 8:12. Preston Hale walked in the way he always walked in, like a man finishing a meeting that happened to be taking place inside his own home. He wore charcoal gray, his tie loosened but not removed, his phone pressed to his ear. He raised one finger in her direction without looking at her, the universal signal for "give me a moment." And she stood at the edge of the kitchen holding a wooden spoon and watching him pace the length of the living room, discussing something about a zoning permit in downtown Atlanta. She turned back to the stove and lowered the flame when he finally came into the kitchen. He looked at the table, looked at her, and said nothing. "I made the lemon herb chicken," Andreen said, keeping her voice warm. "Your favorite? And the rosemary potatoes?" Preston pulled out his chair and sat down, picking up his phone again to scroll through something. "I'm not that hungry. I had something at the office around 6. She set the serving dish down carefully. "I have been cooking since 5. I didn't ask you to do that." The words were not delivered with cruelty. That was almost the worst part. They were delivered the way someone might say the weather changed or the milk is low. Simple observation with no emotional investment whatsoever. Andreen sat down across from him and placed her napkin in her lap and told herself to breathe. "Preston, can we have dinner together tonight? Without the phone?" He looked up briefly. "I have to respond to these emails." "You always have to respond to emails, because I run a company, Andreen. That is how it works." She folded her hands on the table. "I am not asking you to shut the company down. I am asking for 1 hour. Can we not have 1 hour where we just talk? Like we used to?" He set the phone face down on the table, which she recognized as his version of a significant concession. "What do you want to talk about?" "Anything. Everything. I want to know how you are. I want to tell you about my week. I want to feel like we are still a couple and not just 2 people sharing a mortgage." He looked at her then, and she saw it, that flicker of something behind his eyes. Not warmth, not tenderness, just a kind of tired calculation. Like a man deciding how to word an email he did not want to write. "We are fine," he said. "The bills are paid. The house is good. What exactly is the problem?" "The problem," she said slowly, "is that you have not touched me in 4 months. The problem is that you come home and walk past me like I am part of the furniture. The problem is that I put on a dress tonight hoping you would notice, and you looked straight through me." Preston was quiet for a moment. He picked up his fork and then set it back down. And then, with a clinical evenness that would stay in her memory for years, he said, untrained, "I think you need to understand that the way things were when we first got together is not how things stay. Attraction changes. What we have now is a partnership. A stable one. That should be enough." She stared at him. "Are you telling me you are not attracted to me anymore?" "I am telling you that you do not awaken any desire in me. Not the way you are expecting. That is just the reality of long-term relationships. You should stop chasing something that was always temporary." The room became very still. Andreen sat with those words moving through her the way Cold water moves through a cracked wall, finding every hollow place and settling there. She had known things were not good. She had felt the distance growing like a slow leak for the better part of 2 years. But she had told herself stories. He was tired. He was stressed. Work was demanding. He still loved her even if he did not show it. She had told herself those stories so many times they had become a kind of furniture too. It's familiar and unexamined. But he had never said it out loud before. She stood up without fully deciding to. She walked to the counter and braced her hands against the edge of it and looked at the pot. She had stirred for 2 hours and she thought about all the evenings exactly like this one. The dinners that went cold. The conversations that never started. The times she had reached for his hand in bed and felt him shift away. The birthday 2 years ago, when he came home at 11 and apologized without quite meaning it. "I deserve more than this," she said quietly, not turning around. "You have a very comfortable life." "I did not ask for a comfortable life. I asked for a marriage. Those things are the same." She turned around then and looked at him, and for the first time she did not see the man she loved. She saw someone who had made a decision about her value and settled into that decision the way people settle into old shoes. Without thinking, without questioning, simply because it was familiar. "No," she said. "They are not the same at all." She walked upstairs. She closed the bedroom door. She sat on the edge of the bed, and she picked up her phone, and she called Donna Reyes. Her best friend since college, the woman who had stood beside her at her wedding, and whispered, "You look like a whole sunrise," and she said 2 words when Donna answered. He said it. There was a pause. Then Donna said, "Tell me everything." So she did. She sat on the edge of that bed in the burgundy dress she had worn, hoping to be seen, and she told Donna every word Preston had said. And when she finished, she was crying in that silent way that takes everything from you, shaking but soundless. The kind of crying you do when the grief is too big to make noise. "Okay," Donna said, when Andreen finally stopped. "Okay, you are done waiting for that man to see you. You hear me? We are done with that chapter. You are going to start living for yourself, Andreen. Not for him. Not for the marriage. For you? I do not even know who that is anymore. Then we are going to find out. Starting Saturday, you are coming to me, and we are going to remember who Andreen Catyen is before Preston Hale ever put his ring on her finger." After she hung up, Andreen sat in the dark for a long time. The candles downstairs had probably burned low by now. The rosemary chicken was cold. Preston was back on his phone. She looked at her reflection in the dark window of the bedroom, and she made herself a quiet promise. She was not going to disappear. She had been disappearing for 3 years, getting smaller and quieter and more invisible with every month that passed, shrinking herself to fit the space he allowed her. She was done with that. She did not know yet what she was going to grow into, but she knew she was going to grow, and something in the dark stillness of that room felt, for the first time in a very long time, like the beginning of something rather than the end. The Saturday that Donna had promised arrived with bright Georgia sunshine pushing through the curtains of Andreen's bedroom, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, she got out of bed without dreading the day. Preston had slept in his office again. She knew because she had stood in the hallway at 2 in the morning, listening to the silence from behind his door, and felt something shift inside her. Not sadness this time. Something quieter and more permanent. The kind of feeling that comes when you finally accept a truth you have been arguing with. For years, she drove to Donna's apartment on the east side of Atlanta, with the windows down and the radio up. Something she had not done in so long that the simple act of it made her eyes sting. Donna met her at the door wearing a bright yellow robe and holding 2 mugs of coffee. And without saying a word, she pulled Andreen into a hug that lasted long enough to mean something. "First things first," Donna said, releasing her and steering her toward the kitchen table. "You are going to drink this coffee and tell me every single thing that has been sitting in your chest. Then we are going to build you back up from the ground." They talked for 2 hours. Andreen told Donna things she had not said out loud to anyone, small humiliations she had dismissed as nothing at the time, but which had accumulated into something enormous. The evening she had cooked a dinner party for Preston's business partners, and he had introduced her as my wife without using her name, as if she were a category rather than a person. The anniversary where he had given her a card signed simply, Preston, no endearment, no handwritten note. The way he scrolled through his phone when she was speaking, not even pretending to listen. Donna listened to all of it without interrupting. When Andreen finally stopped, Donna was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "He did not just stop seeing you. He trained you to stop seeing yourself. And that is the part we are fixing today." The salon Donna took her to was a place called Ember on Peachtree, all exposed brick and warm lighting and the smell of good product and good conversation. The stylist, a tall woman named Rochelle, with silver-painted nails and an easy laugh, looked at Andreen's hair and said, "You have been hiding, haven't you?" It was not really a question. Rochelle cut 4 inches off, shaped everything around Andreen's face, added warm caramel highlights that caught the light like something alive. When she turned the chair toward the mirror, Andreen went very still. The woman looking back at her had structure and shine, and something in the eyes that resembled confidence. Not fully formed yet, but present. A small coal beginning to glow. "There she is," Donna said from the waiting chair behind her. They went to 3 stores. Donna had opinions about everything and expressed them freely and loudly, pulling dresses off racks and holding them against Andreen with the focused energy of someone who had been waiting years for this particular project. At the 3rd store, a boutique on a side street with soft music playing and dressing rooms with good mirrors, Donna appeared around a corner holding a black dress. It was not scandalous. It was not even particularly revealing in any way that would alarm a reasonable person. It was simply perfectly fitted, short enough to show her legs, cut in a way that understood her shape and worked with it rather than around it. It was the kind of dress that said, "I know exactly who I am." "I cannot wear that," Andreen said. "You absolutely can, and you absolutely will. Try it on." When she came out of the dressing room, Donna pressed both hands to her mouth. 2 women nearby glanced over. One of them said, genuinely and without any prompt, "That dress was made for you." Andreen bought the black dress. She also bought a deep green wrap blouse, 2 pairs of tailored trousers, and a pair of earrings that caught light when she moved. She spent more on herself in one afternoon than she had in the previous year and a half combined. And the strange thing was that it did not feel reckless. It felt like a correction. On the drive home, Donna said, "You need an Instagram." "No," Andreen laughed. "I have not posted anything on social media since 2021. "Exactly. You vanished. You need to come back. Not for Preston, not for anyone else. Just to remind yourself that you exist and that your life is worth documenting. What would I even post? Your mornings, your paintings, your food, your face. You, Andreen. Just you." That night, while Preston was in his office with the door closed and the light burning under it like a small cold star, Andreen sat in the reading corner of their bedroom and created an account. She used her real name. She set her profile photo to an old picture from 2 years ago, one Donna had taken at a rooftop birthday party, where Andreen was laughing at something off camera and the city lights were blurred and soft behind her. She did not post anything that night. She just held the phone and looked at the blank grid of her profile and thought about all the things she wanted to fill it with. It turned out there were more things than she expected. In the weeks that followed, Andreen began returning to herself with the deliberate care of someone restoring a painting, working in layers, patient and attentive. She found her old sketchbooks in a box at the back of the closet and sat at the kitchen table one morning turning pages, looking at the work she had done in her mid-20s, when she was still a working graphic designer with clients and deadlines and a sense of creative purpose. She had been good. Really good. She had forgotten that completely. She bought a small easel and some acrylic paints from the art supply store on Juniper Street and set up a space on the covered back porch. She started small, color studies, shapes, nothing ambitious. But every morning she went out there with her coffee and her brush, and something loosened in her chest that had been clenched for years. She posted her first painting on a Tuesday. Just a photograph of the canvas, a warm, abstract thing in gold and terracotta. propped against the porch railing in the morning light. She wrote a single caption, "Getting reacquainted with something I missed." Within an hour, there were 43 likes and a string of comments from people she had not heard from in years. Old college friends, former colleagues, people saying things like, "I forgot you painted. You're so talented, more please." She read every comment twice. Preston saw none of this. He was home less than usual that month, a development project in Charlotte requiring his attention 2 or 3 days a week. And when he was home, he was present only in the physical sense. A body moving through rooms, a voice on calls, a silhouette behind a closed door. He did not ask about the paints on the porch. He did not ask about the new clothes hanging in the closet. He did not ask about anything at all, and Andreen, for the first time in 3 years, stopped trying to make him. She went to a gallery opening with Donna on a Thursday evening, wearing the black dress with low heels and the earrings that caught light. The gallery was in a renovated warehouse in West Midtown, all high ceilings and white walls and interesting people with glasses of wine, standing in front of large canvases discussing things with genuine enthusiasm. Andreen had forgotten that rooms like this existed. Rooms where people talked about beauty and meaning and craft. She was standing in front of a large oil painting, a seascape with something raw and churning about it, when a man appeared beside her and said, "It feels like it is still moving, doesn't it? Like the waves haven't stopped." She turned. He was tall, maybe 40, with an easy smile and the kind of face that suggested he laughed often and meant it. He introduced himself as Felix Carmichael, and when she said she had heard that name, he told her he owned a gallery himself, a smaller one in Buckhead, and that he had been attending openings like this for years because he genuinely could not stop. They talked for 40 minutes without either of them noticing the time passing. Felix asked her about her own painting and listened with real interest. When she described the back porch and the acrylic studies and the feeling of picking up a brush again after years away, he asked intelligent questions. He did not check his phone once. When they parted, Felix said, "I would love to see your work sometime. Seriously, come by the gallery whenever you want. I think you might surprise yourself." Donna appeared at her elbow as he walked away. "Who was that?" "A gallery owner," Andreen said, watching him cross the room. "A very handsome gallery owner," Donna observed. Andreen said nothing, but she was smiling. Donna had insisted on taking photos throughout the evening, and the last one she took before they left was Andreen standing near the entrance. The gallery warm and glowing behind her, the black dress perfect, her expression relaxed and open and genuinely happy. Donna posted it to Andreen's Instagram before they even reached the car, adding the caption, "She showed up for herself tonight by the time they ordered late dinner at a diner 2 blocks away." The post had over 200 likes by the time Andreen drove home. It had over 400 by the time Preston Hale saw it, forwarded to him by a business associate who had recognized his wife and thought it was simply a compliment. It had over 600 likes and 47 comments, several of them from men using words like stunning and breathtaking and "Where have you been hiding, Preston?" Sat in his home office in Charlotte staring at the image on his phone screen. He looked at it. For a very long time, the woman in that photograph was wearing a black dress and standing in a doorway full of warm light, and she was smiling the way people smile when they have completely forgotten to perform happiness because they are simply experiencing it. She was radiant. She was electric. She was unmistakably and undeniably the most beautiful woman he had seen in a very long time. She was also his wife, and something in Preston Hale's chest, some locked and rusted mechanism that had not moved in years, cracked open in a way that was sudden and painful and entirely his own fault. He scrolled through the comments with a jaw so tight it ached. He clicked on the profile of a man named Felix Carmichael, who had written simply, "The best thing about this whole evening." His profile showed a gallery owner with a pleasant smile and many photos of art openings and absolutely no ring on his left hand. Preston put his phone face down on the desk. He picked it up again. He put it down again. Then he booked. a flight back to Atlanta for the following morning. 4 days earlier than planned, and sat in the dark of his hotel room doing something he had not done in a very long time. He thought about Andreen, really thought about her. Not as a category, not as a fixture in his life, but as a woman. A specific, particular, irreplaceable woman who had dressed up for him on a Tuesday evening and set a table with white linen and candles, and stood in a burgundy dress, waiting to be seen, and he had told her she awakened nothing in him, he had said, those words out loud with his own mouth. Preston Hale, who prided himself on being precise and deliberate in everything he did, had been catastrophically, unforgivably wrong. The question now was whether any of it could be undone. Preston was on the first flight out of Charlotte at 6:40 in the morning. He had not slept. The hotel room had offered him a king bed with expensive sheets and blackout curtains, and he had spent the night sitting in the chair by the window watching the city lights and scrolling through Andreen's Instagram like a man reading a book he should have written himself. There were 23 posts. He counted them. Each one was a small window into a life she had been building without him, quietly and with great determination, right there in the house they shared. There was a photograph of her morning coffee beside a fresh canvas. There was a close-up of her hands, paint-stained, holding a brush over a bright swirl of color. There was a photo of her laughing at a restaurant table with Donna, her head thrown back, completely unguarded. There was a short video of her standing on the back porch in the early morning, the Atlanta skyline faint and blue in the distance, and she was just breathing, looking out at the day, and the caption said, "Learning to take up space again." He had read that, captioned 4 times. Learning to take up space again. Which meant she had stopped. Which meant something in their life together had made her feel she needed to be smaller, quieter, less. Which meant he had done that. Not with one cruel act, but with 1,000 small absences. 1,000 moments of choosing a phone over her face, choosing a meeting over a meal, choosing comfort over connection, until the comfort itself became a kind of cruelty. The plane landed at 8:20, and Preston drove straight home instead of to the office, which was something he could not remember doing in years. The house was quiet when he walked in. The back porch door was open, and he could hear the soft sounds of brush on canvas. And he stood in the kitchen for a moment, just listening. Then he walked toward the sound. Andreen was painting. She was wearing an oversized linen shirt and old jeans with a streak of blue across the knee, and her hair was pulled up loosely, and she had no idea he was standing there. She was completely absorbed, tilting her head at the canvas, adding a stroke, stepping back, considering. She looked more herself than he had seen her look in years. More alive. More present. More everything. He must have made a sound because she turned. The expression that crossed her face was not warm. It was not cold either. It was careful, the expression of someone who has been hurt enough times to stop assuming the best and is simply waiting to see what happens next. "You're back early." Said I needed to come home. She turned back to her. Candace cleaned her brush in the jar of water beside her. "There is coffee inside." Andreen. "Preston, I am working." "I know. He stopped. Words had always come easily to him in boardrooms and negotiations and presentations where everything was structured and the stakes were financial. This was different. There was no structure here, no prepared remarks, no projected outcomes. There was only her, and the fact that he had spent years being very good at everything, except the one thing that actually mattered. "I saw the photograph," he said. She was quiet for a moment. "Then which one?" "The one from the gallery. The black dress." She set her brush down and turned to face him, leaning against the porch railing with her arms folded. Not defensively, just waiting. "You looked." He tried to find the right word and chose the honest one. "Extraordinary." Something flickered in her eyes and then went carefully neutral again. "I looked the same as I always look, Preston. The difference is that someone was actually paying attention." The words landed exactly as accurately as they were meant to. He did not flinch from them. "You are right," he said simply. You are completely right. She studied him. Why are you here? Because I am afraid. That surprised her. He could see it, a small shift in her posture, the arms uncrossing slightly. Preston Hale did not use that word. In 4 years of marriage, she could not remember a single time he had admitted to being afraid of anything. Not market crashes, not failed deals, not anything. He treated vulnerability the way some people treat bad weather, an inconvenience to be managed and moved past as quickly as possible. Afraid of what? She said. Of losing you to a life I pushed you toward, of watching you become this incredible, radiant, fully alive version of yourself, and knowing that I am the reason you had to go and find her on your own instead of growing into her with me beside you. He stepped further onto the porch. I am afraid that I woke up too late. Andreen was quiet for a long moment, looking at him with an expression he could not fully read. Then she said, Felix Carmichael invited me to dinner. Preston absorbed that without looking away. I know. She raised an eyebrow slightly. I looked him up, he admitted. The night I saw the photo. I looked up his profile and I sat in a hotel room in Charlotte not sleeping, and I thought about the fact that a man I have never met is paying more attention to my wife in a single conversation at an art gallery than I have paid in the last 2 years of living with her. 3 years, Andreen said quietly. It has been closer to 3, closed his eyes briefly. 3 years. The morning was warm in the garden. Behind the porch was green, and somewhere in the neighborhood a lawnmower was running and the world was proceeding, with its ordinary business completely indifferent to the fact that a marriage was either ending or beginning in this small, covered space, smelling of paint and coffee and possibility. Did you respond to him? Preston asked. The question cost him something. She could hear it. I have not responded yet, she said. I have been thinking about it. And what have you been thinking? Andreen looked out at the garden for a moment. When she turned back, her eyes were clear and direct. I have been thinking that I spent 3 years trying to get you to see me, and every time I reached for you, you moved away. I cooked dinners you did not eat. I wore dresses you did not notice. I told you I was lonely, and you told me I was being dramatic. And then you stood in our kitchen and told me, in the most matter-of-fact voice I have ever heard, that I do not awaken any desire in you. She paused. You do not get to take that back with one early flight home, Preston, I know. Do you? Because men like you, and I say that with full knowledge of who you are, men like you are very good at deciding they want something the moment they think someone else might have it. I need to know that this is not just about Felix. I need to know that this is about me, about us, about something real. Preston sat down on the porch step. It was an oddly humble gesture for a man whose entire physical vocabulary was about standing upright and projecting control. He sat on the porch step and laced his fingers together and looked at the garden and then looked back at her. I called Donna, he said. Andreen stared at him. You called Donna 3 days ago. I asked her how to fix this, and she told me I was a cliché and that I had destroyed your self-esteem and that flowers and declarations were not going to be enough. She was not gentle about it. Despite everything, a small, involuntary smile crossed Andreen's face. That sounds exactly like Donna. She told me you used to paint, that you gave it up after we got married because I never asked about it, and you slowly stopped making space for the things that were only yours. She told me you used to sing in the car and that you stopped that too. She told me a lot of things that I should have known myself and did not because I never asked. Andreen sat down on the old wooden chair beside her easel. The canvas behind her was half finished. Something warm and layered and complex that he could not name, but that looked, somehow, like her. Do you even know what my favorite book is? She said. No. Do you know where I grew up? Not the city, the neighborhood, the actual street. No. You know that I wanted to open a small design studio before we got married, and I let that idea go because you said the timing was not right, and I believed you, and then the timing was never right, and I stopped mentioning it. He was quiet. Each question was not an accusation so much as an inventory, careful accounting of all the ways she had been invisible to him, and the inventory was long. No, he said again. I did not know any of that. Then what exactly are you asking me to save, Preston? What version of our marriage are you asking me to go back to? None of it, he said, and the firmness in his voice made her look at him carefully. I am not asking you to go back to anything. I do not want the old version. I want to build something completely different. I want to learn the street you grew up on. I want to know the book. I want to understand the design studio and why you let it go, and whether it is something you still want. Because if it is, then I want to help you build it. He looked at her steadily. I want to be someone who deserves to be in the same room as that woman in the photograph. The one who was so completely herself that strangers stopped and stared. Andreen looked at him for a long time. Outside the lawnmower stopped, and the neighborhood went quiet, and the morning sat around them like something holding its breath. I went to see Felix's gallery yesterday. She, said Preston, went very still. Donna came with me. It was beautiful. He showed us around, and we talked about art, and he was kind and interesting, and he made me feel like my opinions were worth hearing. And I kept thinking, this is what it is supposed to feel like. Not romantically, just being heard, being seen. And I thought about the fact that a stranger could give me that in an afternoon, and my husband could not give it to me in 4 years, Andreen. I did not accept his dinner invitation, she said. I want you to know that. Not because I am choosing you in this moment, but because I am not someone who makes decisions while everything is still unresolved. I told Felix that I was married and that I was working through something, and he was gracious about it. He is a good person. Preston let out a slow breath. But I need you to understand something very clearly, Andreen continued. I am not the woman who is going to sit quietly in this house waiting for you to decide she is worth your attention. That woman is gone. She left around the same time she started painting on the back porch and posting photographs of herself looking happy. What you get now is me, the actual me. The one who has opinions and paintings and a voice and plans for a design studio that I am going to open with or without your support. Though I would rather have it, you have it, he said immediately. Every part of it. You cannot just say that. I know. So I will show it. I have already called my assistant and cleared my schedule for the next 2 weeks. No travel, no evening calls, no weekend work. 2 weeks where I am completely present. Not to perform presence, but to actually learn who you are now. If at the end of those 2 weeks you still want to have dinner with Felix Carmichael, then I will have to accept that I built that outcome myself. Andreen looked at him with those clear, measuring eyes of hers, and he felt the full weight of being truly looked at by her. Not with warmth yet, not with forgiveness, but with genuine consideration, and that was more than he had earned. 2 weeks, she said slowly. 2 weeks. Starting right now. Tell me the street. She blinked. What? The street you grew up on? Tell me. A pause. Then, quietly, Magnolia Terrace. In Savannah. It had a big oak tree at the end that the neighborhood kids used to climb, and my mother always said someone was going to fall and break something, and eventually my brother Marcus did. Break his collarbone, but nobody admitted it was from the tree. Preston almost smiled. What is the book? Possession by a Spy. I have read it 4 times. I will read it this week. H studied him. Something in her expression was shifting. Not melting exactly, but adjusting, recalibrating. The way a compass needle swings towards something true. Am still angry at you, she said. You should be, and I am not going to pretend. The last 3 years did not happen. Would not ask you to, and if you pick up your phone during dinner even once in the next 2 weeks, I am going to take it and put it in a drawer. That is fair. Andreen looked at him for one more long moment. Then she stood and picked up her brush and turned back to her canvas. There is coffee inside, she said again, but the quality of the words was different now. Not a dismissal, an invitation. Preston stood up from the porch step and went inside and poured 2 cups of coffee and brought them back out. He sat in the chair beside her easel and watched her paint. He did not speak. He did not check his phone. He simply sat there in the warm morning light and watched his wife work, and for the first time and longer than he could remember, he was completely Entirely present, Andreen painted 3 layers before she reached over without looking at him and picked up her coffee cup. And as she did, her fingers brushed his hand where it rested on the arm of the chair, and she did not pull away. It was not forgiveness. It was not a new beginning yet. It was smaller and more honest than either of those things. It was simply 2 people sitting on a porch in the morning, learning how to look at each other again and choosing, in this one small moment, not to look away. The painting she finished that afternoon was unlike anything she had made before. Warm and complicated and full of color that did not quite resolve into any single image, but that felt, if you stood in front of it long enough, like something that had been broken and was being carefully, imperfectly, put back together. She posted a photograph of it that evening with a single caption: "Some things are worth the work." By morning it had over 1,000 likes. Preston saw it first. He was lying beside her in their bed. In their actual bed, for the first time in months. And he saw the notification light up her phone on the nightstand. And he smiled in the dark in a way that cost him nothing and meant everything. He did not wake her. He just watched her sleep and thought about Magnolia Terrace, and oak trees, and a book he had already ordered, and a design studio that was going to need a good location. And he made himself a quiet promise in the dark the same way she had made one weeks ago. Except his was different. His was not about growing alone. His was about finally, truly growing toward her.